What does Sparky Marky hide off camera from the player? Sparky Marky is a pre-release single-player version of Do You See Sparky, where players explore a children's camp. This mascot character holds something pretty terrifying within it though, as its mouth slowly unzips. So in this video, we're going to go out of bounds and explore the world in a way that wasn't intended, to show off some things you can't normally see. I hope you enjoy. So as always, I'll do a very quick recap. So we start off the game in the forest, and eventually make our way through the woods to various buildings. Along the way you can collect these Discord command things, which is ambitious, but I didn't try any of them out. Eventually you come to this fenced-off area where Sparky Marky is at, and as you close in, they begin to whistle, and at one point they look possessed. Sparky ends up collapsing to the ground again, and as you hit a switch, all the machines around you power up, causing unbearable overlapping noise. A path opens up and Sparky vanishes. You must then backtrack to the first building, get yourself a flare gun, and then enter a cave and break down a door. With this, you'll get a hacking tool that can be used to open doors. You must once again shoot down a wall, and inside, you'll get a taser. Sparky appears and vanishes in front of you, sort of nodding to how he works in the multiplayer game, and then once the player leaves, they are thrown into a summoned maze with a QR code monster. Upon navigating the maze and zapping the monster, Sparky is defeated. So right out of the gate, this map is quite massive. From up here, you can see just how big it is. So starting off, of course, I want to see what our character actually looks like because we can never see their face in-game. And as we take a closer look, we can see that our character is this bald kid in a purple shirt. And this is what their face looks like. What's interesting is that we are not truly bald, and I'll show that off later. So as we make our way through the woods, we end up having our first encounter with Sparky. And from far away, Sparky is already on the ground, sort of deactivated, just laying there. And if we take a look inside of Sparky, we'll see that there is not a monster inside, unlike how in the promotional video there is one. I wasn't sure if they're going to store a shrunken monster in here or not, but they don't, at least in this example. So as we walk around this bend, we can see that Sparky ends up standing up and begins to glow. So this is what they look like close up when they're doing this, because normally we can't see this really close because of the fence. And we're going to lock the camera here for a second so that we can watch Sparky fall back to the ground too, because this is also something that is mostly obscured due to the environment. Now once we reach Sparky, we can jump on top of them and nothing will happen, and as soon as we touch this switch, they will instantly despawn behind us. Moving on, we eventually come across a computer screen that has some desktop icons on it. It's a bit hard to see what's on the desktop, but looking up close, you'll find some other Steam games. Sort of a neat way to shout out some other games that the developer thinks are cool on Steam. So once we open this door by the computer, we can find Sparky for a split second before he simply unloads. This is right before the maze loads in. But why don't we take a look at that maze? So the maze transition is pretty clever, and if we slow things down, you can see it happen more clearly. So what is actually happening in this situation is there is this separate maze object that is hidden out of bounds, and you can see it on screen right now. And once the player hits that trigger, this maze is then warped across the map beneath the player, and then it begins to slowly rise up underneath them. So once it rises up fully, the screen then dips to black, so the player can't tell they're getting warped across the map to a different maze. We can warp to a self-contained maze area instead of a mountain, and this is when the QR code monster comes after us. So this is what the monster looks like up close. It's, a very strange choice for a horror game antagonist, like a spindly spider thing. Now if we watch the jump scare in slow motion, you'll notice something else interesting. Normally, it looks like the monster's eating us, but in reality, this is what happens. The second it touches us, our hair appears back on our head, and our character and the monster continue to sit here. The jump scare animation plays over the screen elsewhere, as this monster's face is closed while the jump scare monster's mouth is open. The blocky tunnel that is the monster eating us is actually out of bounds in the maze. It's this pink thing that stretches between the walls. Up top, we can see what the maze looks like from up above, and we can even find some developer text hidden that says enter, probably to help the developers not get disoriented themselves when working with the maze. As I was saying, the entire time we are waiting to respawn, our character is just sitting there as the monster runs up against them. And even if we were to escape the maze and move the character out of bounds to a place that the monster cannot reach, we will still automatically die to the jump scare. I'm not sure why they programmed it this way, but that's the way it works. Now, we get warped into this maze while trying to make it deeper into this camp. But what if we got past this trigger that warps us? If we do this, we can find a road that leads back deeper into the woods. There are some street lamps and different paths to take, but there's also another building out here that has a fork and spoon on it. The building doesn't exist at all on the inside, but I imagine this is where the cafeteria will be in the final release of the multiplayer game. The road beyond this just abruptly ends, but we are free to explore this massive world. Strangely, some street lamps lead out to the edge of a cliff, and there's no fall damage in this game, so we can jump off of it. So now let's explore all the things out in the great beyond. We just gotta be careful not to fall off the edge of the world. The big rock that says Sparky on it doesn't have any collision, so we fall straight through it to the ground. And the land geometry out here is pretty steep. As we wander around, we eventually come to a pair of scooters. These are behind a locked gate you cannot open, and we can see the road behind them leads nowhere. The scooters themselves can't be interacted with either. We just walk right through them. Out of bounds are some floating walls in some areas, which aren't too interesting, but there is an underground bunker. Now, you can get in here somehow. I don't know the true method, but there are some of those Discord codes in here. But in here, it is normally super dark. So you can use your hacking tool to start an elevator, and it'll take you into this room with these monster cubes. My hunch is these ancient artifacts that have monsters carved on them are the different monsters that can be lurking inside of Sparky Marky's body. Given there is a multiplayer focus for the full game, it makes sense that there will be different monsters to play as. We can't interact or do anything with these cubes though, but then again, I didn't really do the whole Discord server side quest thing either. Right above us, we can walk on top of the roof of this underground bunker though, which is kinda neat. And if we continue moving around out of bounds, there is way too much to explore, and it's very easy to get kind of lost. There's random trees out here, and you can fall through certain parts of the map. There is a sky bridge that goes over an area we explore while actually playing the game though. We can walk across it, but there's a collider in place that prevents us from crossing the bridge fully. If we force our way across, it just leads to the other side of the ravine. There's some punched out holes in the map out here that would make your character fall out of bounds, and there are some random deep holes out here too that have bottoms. Heading back into bounds, it is possible to spawn in the QR code monster, and upon doing so, the monster will just run in place. Spawning in multiple monsters can be done, and they can't hurt us at all because their behavior is stripped. However, spawning in multiple players is neat because it will load in a different character than us. Doing this in the maze, we can actually block the QR code monster from us with another player, but it only saves us for so long because the jump scare is on a timer. But with that, we come to the end of Sparky Marky. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Subscribe now if you did, and I'll see all of you in the next one. Cheers!